Keith, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jam. Excited to be here.
Welcome to another Powered by Volta episode. Who said the conversation on dry rooms had to be dry? I'm joined by Keith Hoge, who is the director of Bry-Air's battery business. He talks us through how dry rooms work and how they will continue to evolve to meet next-gen requirements. We also discuss how domestic supply of equipment is a major challenge and will continue to be as the battery manufacturing sector grows across the States. And finally, we have a couple of quick-fire questions from you, our battery community. We hope you enjoy. So let's start with Bry-Air. You saw a clear gap in the market 5 years ago and diversified into the battery space. So talk us through, first of all, why and then how you made that transition.
Yeah, definitely. So you're spot on. It was 2019. We started getting into the battery dry room space. I believe 2020, we had commissioned our first battery dry room. Really at that time, we had seen an uptick in inbound requests, and it was clear that the market was growing. Really in 2022, with the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, that just threw fuel onto the fire, and you saw massive investments going into the North American battery space. So it was really wonderful that we entered the market prior to that, had a bit of a leg up in that regard. Bry-Air has been in the desiccant dehumidification space for over 6 decades. So it worked out very well that our technology is really ideally suited for battery production, and we're able to leverage those tailwinds.
And for our listeners and viewers, Keith, a little bit under the weather, his voice was going, so thank you for joining us today and kind of sticking with the recording.
I appreciate the caveat.
The day after Labor Day weekend, so I appreciate that. So to give it a kind of a short introduction then, so what are dry rooms and how do they work?
Yeah. So dry rooms are particularly important in the battery space because batteries contain often multiple hygroscopic materials like sodium or lithium. Essentially what that means is they have an affinity for water. So say you have a lithium-based electrolyte, what it will do in the presence of even small amounts of moisture is it will react to form hydrogen gas and lithium hydroxide, which could have a number of very negative effects on cell performance. For instance, cell swelling, decreased cycle life, or ultimately just downright shorting of the cell itself. All common failure modes if dry conditions aren't maintained. Now, the way a battery dry room works is it's essentially a sealed environment with positive pressure relative to the outside air. So what that does is any outside air with excess moisture, it's not going to get into the room itself because of that pressure difference. Now, a dry room is connected to big industrial dehumidifiers that rely on desiccants like silica gel, activated alumina, things like that, basically with a very high adsorption capacity that will take any moisture that is inside the dry room itself. That moisture will get adsorbed into the desiccant, which is then heated to drive off that moisture into the outside air. The end result is a controlled environment with dew points as low as -75 Celsius, which for lithium-ion batteries and especially so for solid state batteries is absolutely necessary.
We obviously kind of skipped past, first of all, Keith, your journey. You joined Bry-Air fairly recently with the help of my colleague Ollie. So I understand you're enjoying your time there so far, which is great. So talk us through your journey. You've obviously got an extensive history in battery manufacturing. Talk us through that and kind of what incentivized you or tempted you to join Bry-Air.
For sure. So I'm a mechanical engineer by education. I started off as a design engineer in the automotive space. My entry point into the battery space was at a cell manufacturing company in upstate New York called IM3. At IM3 was really where I got to meet some incredible people, some individuals with extensive knowledge in the battery space, and I was able to learn from them quite a bit. It was there that I really recognized the undeniable momentum that this industry has, the huge amounts of investment and talent that is being funneled into the battery space. And I really knew then and there that that's what I wanted to spend the rest of my career doing, being squarely involved in onshoring of battery production here in the U.S. Now, Bry-Air actually, they installed IM3's 55,000 square foot dry room, so I had some familiarity with them from my previous role. I knew that their values aligned quite well with mine. They are equally as excited about what's going on here in the United States in the battery space, and I feel that certainly together we've got a really exciting couple of years coming up.
Quite exciting for Mel, of course, the CEO of Bry-Air. As you said, the business has been going for over 6 decades. And they recently really joined the battery field, which is, from what I understand, one of the most exciting verticals for you. Remind me the kind of other areas that you kind of supply dry rooms to, and yeah, kind of what does the future hold really for the battery side of the business?
For sure. So Bry-Air's core area of expertise is the manufacture of industrial dehumidification units. And that can be used in any number of applications, from food production to hospitals to basically any environment that needs to be controlled for humidity. Batteries are somewhat unique in that they require ultra low dew points relative to most other applications. So a more robust dry room is needed, which is why it's something of a specialized segment within Bry-Air. But as we've been discussing, the size of the market and the trajectory of the market really warrants a lot of focus into that space, which is why we made a strategic decision to really cater to the battery space and establish ourselves as experts.
And it's justified. There's obviously so much growth when it comes to battery manufacturing in the US. Still very young, but the prospects look amazing. I guess one of the biggest challenges is the domestic sourcing of battery equipment. It's something that I discuss with a lot of leaders in this space. From a dry room perspective and the equipment that you need, how does that look from a kind of domestic supply?
Yeah, I mean, I guess generally speaking, a lot of the battery production assets in the United States are being financed by government funds. So battery manufacturers are certainly incentivized to source as much of their equipment from within the United States as possible. A dry room accounts for a significant portion of their investment into creating a gigafactory or even a smaller scale lab and R&D facility. So certainly the need for a domestically sourced dry room is absolutely there. Our customers really respond to the fact that we are 100% made in the United States. Our dehumidification units are manufactured in Sunbury, Ohio, where they've been made for the last 60 years. And they certainly respond well to that. Now, the broader kind of battery production equipment market, what I would say is there continue to be large investments made into the space. Certainly to meet the huge demand that exists and will continue to exist for domestic battery production equipment, where there will need to be continued investments. The demand is just so large and will continue to be getting larger over time.
With that in mind, over the next 5 years, how do we improve domestic sourcing in the US?
For sure. A key element is continued investment. One thing that a lot of people are starting to talk about is it takes time. Something that is often overlooked is it's really, really hard to build a fully robust battery ecosystem, including equipment and all the raw materials that go into cell production. Something that the United States does not have the advantage of this time. Our counterparts in China have really been developing the lithium-ion battery market for many decades now. So unfortunately, we're a bit late to the game. But really, over the last 4 or 5 years or so, have been such profound and such kind of sweeping actions taken to expedite that industry development timeline. And we're really starting to see that effect.
In terms of battery technology, it's constantly changing, and in all areas, I feel the kind of rate of acceleration has really increased. With new developments like solid state batteries, whether that be lithium metal or silicon, it's getting more attention. How do you future proof your dry room technology so it remains in demand for years and decades to come?
So that's actually something that really attracted me personally to the dry room space. As you start seeing more and more solid state batteries come to market or starting to get commercialized, they require actually even more stringent dry room conditions than traditional lithium ion batteries. We were actually at the Solid State Battery Summit a couple of weeks back in Chicago and got to hear from some people that are on the cutting edge of this of solid state technologies. And something we've heard time and time again in talking about our dry room technologies is the need for -75 Celsius and below dew points in a dry room itself, which is pretty low. Thankfully, we've demonstrated capability at those ultra low dew points and feel that our dry room technology will be suitable for these solid state batteries that are becoming more and more popularized, let's say.
In terms of a target customer perspective, when we're talking about dry rooms, is there a particular size of manufacturing facility? Are you seeing opportunity in kind of more R&D based business or manufacturing? Talk us through that.
For sure. So a core target market for Bry-Air is those smaller to medium size R&D to pilot lines, ranging from 100 square feet to 100,000 square feet or so. We feel that there's just very many of those types of companies out there, and they've got a distinct need for U.S. manufactured dry rooms. A big value proposition of Bry-Airs is that we offer a fully turnkey end-to-end dry room products to our customers. So especially these smaller companies, that value proposition resonates with them. To have a sole point of accountability, a single company that you can go to and avoid any finger pointing should things go wrong in dry room conditions, things like that. That's hugely valuable to them. So we feel we've had a lot of success in that space, and we're continuing to focus quite a bit into those smaller to medium size dry rooms.
And there's plenty of those around at the moment in the US.
Oh yeah,
we're working with quite a few ourselves. And then just in terms of, I guess, why not the kind of large scale? Obviously, there's not many in the US, but why not large scale? What are the barriers? And is one of those barriers domestic equipment?
That certainly factors into it for sure. I would say what we're seeing in the large scale gigafactory space is there's definitely been a slowdown as a result of, really stemming from the slowdown in EV adoption. While long term, Bry-Air absolutely would love to support some of those larger multi-gigawatt hour facilities. We just feel at this point, our scale of production is more in line with some of the smaller opportunities, of which there are many more. And we feel that the opportunity for Bry-Air to be successful is more readily apparent.
You mentioned before the different verticals you have, Bry-Air. Which is your fastest growing one? I hope it's battery. And if it is, how excited are you for the future of this vertical of the battery industry?
We're incredibly excited. It's definitely amongst the fastest growing verticals at Bry-Air, and you can really tell that by the investments and the kind of time and effort that Bry-Air is spending in growing this space. It really is. It's a fascinating industry to be in, because of all the industries I've worked in, nothing the pace of change in the space, it's just second to none. So Bry-Air is really excited to capitalize on on that pace of change, on the amount of investment going into the space, and we're excited to kind of lend our decades of experience in desiccant dehumidification to the battery world.
Speaking about the battery world, the battery community, we've got a couple of quick fire questions from them. I put a post out last week. before the weekend. So the first one, what are the key obstacles to the domestic equipment supply chain? Are the domestic options lesser in performance and quality when compared to non-domestic counterparts? And if so, how?
I wouldn't say it's a function of domestic options being lesser in performance and quality. It's really a function of availability, and that goes back to what we were discussing earlier in the fact that the U.S. battery equipment supply chain is a young one. It's a nascent industry. We don't have the benefit of the very many decades of development that have been taking place in China. So really, it's a function of time. I feel that with continued investment into the space, it's a matter of time before the U.S. battery supply chain is on par, if not exceeding, those of other countries.
And the second question, with dry rooms, do you find customers prioritize price or quality?
Well, obviously, price and quality both are very important factors to our customers. Something I will say is that maintaining dry room conditions has major implications on production. If your room is out of spec, you're not making batteries that day. For some companies that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars of cells per day, if not millions of dollars of cells per day, having a dry room go out of spec is simply not an option. So that's something we lean into heavily, having really a US-based technical support that really goes above and beyond when it comes to ensuring a stress-free customer experience. That resonates very well with customers. That coupled with the fully turnkey end-to-end dry room offering goes a very, very long way when it comes to communicating Bry-Air's value proposition.
That's a super difficult question to answer. I know the person who's asked that. It's a salesperson and only a salesperson can ask that question. It's a really hard question to answer. So good work. And a final question from a former guest this time. Obviously, you don't know who the guest is. You don't know what the question is. And it's more of a kind of personal career one. So they have asked, who has been the most influential person in your career and what impact did they make? And the put in brackets, so you don't have to name them if you don't know. Make it too personal.
That's an interesting one. I've been very lucky in my career to have had very many wonderful mentors. Specifically in the battery space, I'm lucky to know quite a few people that have had decades more experience in batteries than I do and have taught me quite a bit. I would say I hesitate to name people because I know I'm going to forget to name certain people that have been hugely impactful in my career. But at the risk of doing that, Chaitanya Sharma, the founding CEO of IM3, he's been really an incredible person to work with. Knows a lot about batteries, a lot about leading teams of people. Virgil Beeston, he's a colleague, or he's had a long career in the battery space. He's just been incredibly generous with his time and teaching me about different types of battery technologies, energy storage systems, things like that. And the list goes on, really. I fear that I'm going to, I know that I've left off certain names, and I hope that I don't get upset calls as a result of this, but I've been very fortunate in the people that I've met.
Again, with that question, I'm sure you've missed off so many people. So when this is released, I'm sure you can tag them in there and say that you appreciate them. You appreciate them. So this is going to be released on the 24th of September. So only a couple of weeks before the battery show. This is a powered by Volta episode. Of course, you're a Volta Foundation member. So thank you to them. So hopefully we can catch up in the Volta lounge and talk about the not so dry topic of dry rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that. It's a not so dry topic. If anyone's listening to this is going to be at the battery show, Bry-Air will have a booth. I'll be there with a few of my colleagues. Love to discuss further and answer any more questions about dry rooms you might have.
Well, Keith, thank you again. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Jamie. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.